Chapter 88. Domineering words and undisguised arrogant expression. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with interest. These days, he had learned about all the deeds that Yiqing Luo had done from Guardian Feng. These 2 days, he had been observing secretly. He had some understanding of Yiqing Luo's character. Vengeful, ruthless, and decisive. She seemed indifferent and heartless, but when it comes to the people she cared about, she would use her own way to help the other party. Especially that pair of eyes, charming, cold and arrogant, deeply attracted his attention. This woman was different from ordinary women. There was a feeling that was extremely similar to him. A decision was formed in his heart. Come to think of it, in the future, he would not be lonely. I will remember your words. Dmo Xian loosened the restraint on Yiqing Luo and slowly straightened up, his fingers circled around his chest. In the future, I will come back to fulfill the promise between us today. Promise, promise. What nonsense promise? Did he really treat what he said earlier as a verbal agreement between both parties? Hey. Did he misunderstand something? She was about to open her mouth to clarify that what she said earlier was absolutely not a promise. But she saw Dmo Xian sitting by the bed with a serious face. Your brother's suggestion can actually be considered. The topic changed and Yiqing Luo didn't want to repeat the issue of marriage. Otherwise, Dmo Xian would think that she was crazy for marrying. Yiqing Luo also put on a serious expression, raised her eyebrows and asked, admitted to the Heavenly Academy. Dmo Xian actually suggested her to enter the Heavenly Academy. Entering the Heavenly Academy is a good start for you. Dmo Xian nodded slightly. Although his attitude was lazy, but the words that came out of his mouth were worth considering. The reason why the Heavenly Academy is famous in the Nirvana realm is not only because of the school's strict enrollment, but more importantly, their strict teaching. You just started cultivating profound qi, your profound grade is not stable. If there is no master to guide you, you will easily go astray. The Heavenly Academy can help you to stabilize your own foundation. These thoughts were exactly the same as Yiqing Luo's thoughts. Whether it was cultivation or anything else, the foundation was the most important. As long as he had a solid foundation, he would be invincible. Ah Luo, I've settled the matters in the Imperial Palace. I'll accompany you to the Heavenly Academy. Dmo Xian's lips curled into a smile as he leaned back. That pair of long, narrow, and devilishly charming black eyes glowed with rippling light. You want to tag along? Yiqing Luo frowned. Without thinking, she directly rejected, no, you can't go. Who was Dmo Xian? The legend of the Nirvana realm. If he went to the Heavenly Academy, wouldn't the Academy be in a mess? How could he happily learn the method of cultivating qi? I'll be in the dark. Dmo Xian suddenly leaned forward and his jet black eyes coincidentally met with Mu Ran's line of sight. Won't cause you any trouble. Get straight to the point, what's your motive? Yiqing Luo didn't shift her gaze away as she looked straight into his eyes. Then, she blinked her charming eyes, which were clear and cold. In your eyes, whatever I do, I have ulterior motives. Dmo Xian's eyes darkened as his slender fingers stretched forward. Yiqing Luo thought that he wanted to hook her chin again and quickly retreated. But unexpectedly, the back of her head coincidentally bumped into Dmo Xian's palm. He retracted his long arm and Yiqing Luo's entire body was pressed to the front of her chest by his huge palm. Chapter 89. The strong and powerful heartbeat was extremely rhythmic. The rich masculine scent and elegant sandalwood scent assailed her nostrils. This sandalwood scent, this body temperature, it was really captivating and intoxicating. To be honest, Yiqing Luo was stunned for a moment. This man always flirted with her when she wasn't paying attention. His actions had also activated the coolness and craziness of pulling down the sky. If Dmo Xian claimed to be the second best at flirting, no one would dare to claim to be the best. Ah Luo, just as Dmo Xian called out her name in a husky and magnetic voice. Yiqing Luo suddenly pushed him away and raised her head. Yes, I heard you. Dmo Xian's brows relaxed a little as the corners of his eyes rose slightly. Yiqing Luo continued, I heard you, you do have other motives. She looked at Dmo Xian in silence. After a while, her charming eyes floated a pinch of crushed ice, glinting coldly. I'm not like those ladies in the boudoir, I'm not that stupid. Yiqing Luo stated her own views unhurriedly. The number one person in the Nirvana realm, the legendary overlord, fell in love at first sight with me, a famous waste from Three Springs sect, and wanted to marry me and so on. I have never thought about it. I'm not that arrogant, nor that narcissistic. To make the dignified overlord willing to sacrifice his beauty to lure me into the trap. I guess there must be a reason for the overlord to go to the Heavenly Academy. After Yiqing Luo finished, her charming eyes lifted lazily and glanced at Dmo Xian. Not a word. As if waiting for Dmo Xian's answer. However, Dmo Xian did not speak. His lips hooked into a smile. That smile did not reach the bottom of his eyes. It was so cold that it sent chills down one's spine and made one tremble. Inexplicably, Yiqing Luo felt flustered. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but when the words came to her mouth, they were shocked by that pair of black eyes and she could not spit out a word. That pair of eyes had no emotions. However, everyone could clearly feel the chill that came from his bones. With a flick of his sleeve, the man let go of her head and turned towards the door. Dmo. Her voice had yet to leave her throat. The purple figure had only taken a few steps before disappearing into the air. Not a trace of him could be seen. Yiqing Luo slid down the bed and searched around the house a few times. She specially used her perception to carefully sense the entire range of the abandoned courtyard. There was no sign of Dmo Xian. He left. Just like when he came, he was ethereal and silent. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips tightly and returned to the bedside resentfully as she leaned against the headboard weakly and sat down. She knew that Dmo Xian was furious. And he was very, very angry. Her doubts and distrust had agitated Dmo Xian. She did not know where Dmo Xian had gone to this time. Would he appear again? If Dmo Xian did not appear on his own accord, even if she searched the entire Nirvana realm, she might not be able to find Dmo Xian. The only thing he could do was to wait for him to calm down before he took the initiative to appear. But Yiqing Luo didn't regret her decision. She had never put her back in someone else's hands. She had never been forced to hand over the person behind her. The relationship between Dmo Xian and her was at most that of the profound heart Jade's mother and individual. Other than that, they could only be considered as strangers. She did not believe Dmo Xian and doubted him, which was a normal thing. She was not targeting Dmo Xian, but she would not trust anyone. Forget it, Dmo Xian had left, so be it. She flipped her hand and a small kitten the size of 2 palms suddenly appeared in her palm. With a leap, it pounced into Yiqing Luo's arms. Chapter 90. On the third day after Dmo Xian left, Yiqing Luo brought Chi out of the azure dew bracelet. The room was silent. Yiqing Luo got off the bed and subconsciously looked at the place where Dmo Xian stood. It was empty, no one was there. There wasn't his unique sandalwood scent in the air. He hadn't come back for the past few days. Perhaps it was because Dmo Xian was angered by her. Yiqing Luo felt an inexplicable sense of guilt. What kind of weird feeling was this? This was the first time she had such a feeling. Could it be that what she said that day was too much? It seemed It was indeed too much. Yiqing Luo started self-reflection. After all, the other party was the noble overlord. He was willing to lower himself to be by your side. You should be satisfied. Why bother asking the other party's purpose? Maybe the overlord was just bored and didn't have a purpose at all. After self-reflection, Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. She suddenly remembered that Dmo Xian had arranged a spy by her side. That black-robed youngster called Wind. Why not ask him? If Wind was there, it meant that Dmo Xian was just sulking and would come back after his anger subsided. If Wind wasn't there, that meant Dmo Xian planned to never appear in front of her again. If Dmo Xian didn't appear, it meant that the temporary profound jade heart in her body could only last for another month. Yiqing Luo exhaled a mouthful of impure air and placed her palm on her chest, feeling the profound qi lingering around the profound jade heart. She really hated the feeling of putting her fate on someone else's hands. She must find her profound jade heart as soon as possible. Otherwise, she could only rely on other people's strength to live. She didn't realize that she, who had always been indifferent to anything and any strangers, would actually waste time to ponder over a man's heart. Yiqing Luo cleared her throat and called out in a probing manner, "Wind." Her line of sight surveyed the surroundings. There was no sound. Yiqing Luo spread out her perception and once again probed for an unfamiliar presence. "Wind, there's something about Dmo Xian that I want to talk to you about." She had just spat out the 3 words Dmo Xian when a whirlwind suddenly blew in the room. The wind stopped. A young man dressed in black stood at the door. His face was cold and emotionless. "What is it?" Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes. Sure enough, Dmo Xian's follower was still around. As expected of one of Lord Dizun's subordinates. His ability to conceal his aura was truly impressive. She couldn't sense Ah Feng's aura at all. Even though Ah Feng was standing right in front of her. Wind. Should be Dmo Xian's secret guard. I'm fine now. Yiqing Luo collected her thoughts, smiled and shook her head. Since it was confirmed that Wind was still monitoring her in the dark, that proved that Dmo Xian would appear again. It looked like there was something on her that attracted Dmo Xian and he was determined to get it. Wind frowned as his face was filled with disgust. "Yiqing Luo, don't go too far. If the overlord wants to kill you, it's just a matter of moving his fingers. Do you really think His Majesty wants something from you?" Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. Just as she was about to reply, Wind turned into a whirlwind and disappeared in front of Yiqing Luo. As though he didn't want to be alone with Yiqing Luo for even a second. Yiqing Luo didn't care about Wind's departure. His heart was rippling with ripples. That's right. Chapter 91. She had always suspected Dmo Xian's purpose in getting close to her. Well, she had decided. When Dmo Xian returned, she would apologize to him. Yiqing Luo pushed the door and walked out of the room. She had just stepped out of the door when she heard Ziling's voice. Miss, you are finally awake." Yiqing Luo looked over. Ziling was standing in front of the next door with her arms wide open, her face flushed red. "Eighth young master, Ling, will never give in before Miss agrees." Yi Fengyu's handsome face frowned. "Ling, move aside. If I can't make it for the ability assessment, I will be expelled from the Heavenly Academy." "Your leg is not healed yet, Ling, cannot move aside." Ziling said stubbornly. She remembered Yiqing Luo's instructions and was determined not to let him leave the room. After listening for a while, Yiqing Luo finally understood. Today was the day of the Heavenly Academy's ability assessment. The ability assessment and which class they would be assigned to was a crucial moment for the students who were admitted into the Heavenly Academy. Because it would determine their fate. No wonder Yi Fengyu had to participate in the ability assessment even though his leg was not fully healed. Yi-Ching Luo waved her hand and Ziling stepped aside. She walked over and stared at Yi Fengyu with a pair of clear eyes. Yi Fengyu's scalp went numb and lowered his eyes. Sister, want to participate in the assessment? Yi-Ching Luo asked lightly. Yi Fengyu looked up in panic but was frightened by Yi-Ching Luo's gaze and immediately lowered his head. He bit his lower lip and looked hesitant. After a while, an inaudible voice overflowed from his lips, "Yes." "Why?" Yi-Ching Luo's voice was still very calm, no extra emotions could be heard. Yi Fengyu bit his lower lip even harder, almost bleeding. His hands were clenched into fists, trembling slightly. Immediately, he took a deep breath and looked up again, no longer flinching. He fixed his eyes on Yi-Ching Luo's and said word by word, "I want to prove my strength, I want to enter the high profound class, I want to stand firm in the Heavenly Academy." Yes, the Heavenly Academy was the place he had always yearned for. "I want to become stronger, I want to protect my sister. Heavenly Academy is the only way for me to become stronger. Are you confident?" Yi-Ching Luo's lips curled up into an extremely shallow arc, the ripples in her eyes softened a little. Yi Fengyu nodded vigorously. "All right, I believe you." Yi-Ching Luo raised her hand and rubbed Yi Fengyu's head. "The path of the strong needs to be walked step by step. Once you step on this path, you are destined to have no way out. On this path, no one will help you. You will have to rely on yourself to persevere. Have you thought this through?" Yi Fengyu nodded again. Yi-Ching Luo smiled, a satisfied smile. She could see Yi Fengyu's potential. Yi-Ching Luo heard the keyword and her brows rose as she followed everyone's line of sight. Mu Zifan walked at the front. His blue robe made his temperament even more outstanding. He gently waved the folding fan in his hand, a warm but distant smile on his face. Mu Zifei followed closely behind, greeting the surrounding people from time to time. Mu Ziqing Mu Zishao and Luo Mu as he is possible. Mu, Yi-Ching Luo's look. Mu, Yao Xiao Mu to say. Ching Luo as you. As Feng is. As she said that as she could. Mu Zi Mu, He Luo. Master. Yi. I can I. Yi, can. I am I. Luo. It was said that maids follow their masters. Don't let the Mu brothers see Ziling's infatuated look. Otherwise, it would be misunderstood that she was infatuated with the Mu brothers. Chapter 93. Miss, the two young masters from the Mu family seem to be walking towards us. Ziling wanted to focus her attention on Yi Fengyu, but one of the Mu brothers was gentle and elegant like the wind, the other was handsome and incomparably amiable. Two good-looking men walked directly towards him. How could an ordinary girl move her eyes away? Not only was Ziling unable to maintain her composure, the girls around Yi-Ching Luo were also panting and screaming with excitement. This momentum was comparable to a celebrity meeting with his fans. The assessment square was oval in shape. The viewing area for all forces also circled around the square. The Three Springs Sex area of influence was located on the right-hand side of the main stage. And on the left-hand side of the main stage was the royal family area. These were the symbol of status, the two most distinguished positions. At this time, in the Three Springs sect area, Yi-Ching Ling stared fiercely at the audience area opposite. Elder sister, that little slut Yi-Ching Luo is also here. Yi-Ching Qian sat elegantly on one side. Hearing her sister's words, she covered her mouth and chuckled lightly. Yi Fengyu is also admitted into the Heavenly Academy, don't worry. The implication was that Yi-Ching Luo was only accompanying Yi Fengyu and would not participate in the assessment to confront her. When I see her, I can't take it anymore. Yi-Ching Ling bit her lower lip. The injury and pain from the last time she was tortured by Yiqing Luo had yet to recover. On the second day of recuperation, she received the admission letter from the Heavenly Academy. This was the only chance for her to climb back up in the Yi family. Yiqing Ling gritted her teeth and endured the pain to participate in the ability assessment. Yiqing Ling blamed Yiqing Luo for the pain of participating in the competition. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, she would definitely be able to smoothly enter the Heavenly Academy with her profound grade. Don't make trouble at the crucial moment. Since I have promised to let you enter the high profound class smoothly, I will definitely do it. Yiqing Qian pinched her sister's little hand, a touch of determination flashed across her eyes. Work hard and do your best to the two young masters of the Mu family, don't let daddy down. Ever since Yi Tianquang had completely fallen out with the Yuqi family under Yiqing Luo's scheme, he went looking for the Mu family. Because the Mu family's two young masters had beaten up Yuqi Ye at the pristine elixir medicine store, they didn't even feel like maintaining a peaceful relationship with the Yuqi family on the surface. Naturally, they were closer to the Three Springs sect. Yi Tianquang also seized the opportunity and set his sights on the two unmarried young masters of the Mu family. Yiqing Ling's little face finally revealed a smile. Since young, there was nothing that Big Sister couldn't do. Since Big Sister had spoken, she absolutely believed in Big Sister. Furthermore, the two young masters of the Mu family, at the thought of the two handsome and refined young masters, Yiqing Ling shyly lowered her eyes. I know, eldest sister. She had asked around and found out that the Mu brothers were in the high profound class. As long as she could successfully enter the high profound class, she could use the excuse of being family friends to get close to them. Wasn't everything like water gathering? But, the Mu brothers were both so handsome, and both of them were very strong. They were on par with each other. Who should she choose to be her husband? Yiqing Ling thought happily in her heart. However, this was just the beginning of this beautiful dream. Yiqing Ling's gaze suddenly fixated on a certain place and immediately her whole body trembled with anger. Eldest sister. Look! In the audience area opposite, the Mu brothers stopped in front of Yiqing Luo. The three of them seemed to be talking about something and Yiqing Luo's smile was extremely alluring. Chapter 94. Long time no see, 7th Mississippi, Mu Zifan greeted her warmly. Yiqing Luo nodded with a smile. I told you to come to the assessment square today. Look, I met 7th Miss. Sure enough, this is fate. Mu Zifei put his hand on Mu Zifan's shoulder, popped out his head and smiled in surprise. 7th Miss wants to enter the Heavenly Academy. Mu Zifan asked warmly with a modest smile on his face. Accompany Xiao Yu to participate in the assessment. Yiqing Luo shook her head and glanced at her brother who had already received his number and was standing in the waiting area waving at her. 7th Miss is such a capable person, why not enter the Heavenly Academy? Mu Zifan shook his head with a look of pity. With 7th Miss ability, entering the high profound class should not be a problem. Yiqing Luo only smiled faintly and did not respond. In her heart, there was a bit of relief. Previously she refused to enter the Heavenly Academy because she considered that her profound jade heart was bound to Dmo Xian. After that, Dmo Xian took the initiative to let her enter the Heavenly Academy, and he was so angry that he ran away. If she was admitted into the Heavenly Academy, would Dmo Xian's anger be appeased? This thought flashed through Yiqing Luo's mind. She shook her head repeatedly and secretly spat a few times in her heart. Why did she care so much about whether Dmo Xian was angry or not? 7th Miss, are you possessed? Mu Zifei looked at Yiqing Luo strangely. Seeing her suddenly frowning and suddenly shaking her head, he could not help but laugh. Yiqing Luo sobered up from her thoughts, pursed her pink lips and rolled her eyes. When does the assessment end? The assessment period of the Heavenly Academy was half a month. The first 10 days was the time for the assessment. 3 days after receiving the admission form, you must go to the Heavenly Academy for the ability assessment to facilitate the class allocation. Today at midnight. Mu Zifan raised his eyebrows slightly, his eyes lit up and revealed a smile. Is 7th Miss ready to participate in the assessment? The last day of the assessment? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. She was still thinking of asking Win to contact Dmo Xian after they returned, to probe for his reaction. Otherwise, if she entered the Heavenly Academy and Dmo Xian still sulked and refused to appear, wouldn't she be embarrassed? In this way, we're students from the same academy. Mu Zifei didn't notice Yiqing Luo's change and happily clapped his hands. He hooked his arm over Yiqing Luo's shoulder like a good brother. Let my brother write a recommendation letter for you, to guarantee that you won't have any pressure to enter the hospital. With Miss Seven's strength, she doesn't even need a recommendation letter to be admitted into the academy. Mu Zifan pulled Mu Zifei's ear and pulled him behind him. Also, no matter how valiant 7th Miss is, she's still a woman. Flirting in public, do you want to ruin 7th Miss' clean reputation? Mu Zifei covered his ears, howling in pain. If it's ruined, then it's ruined. At worst, I'll marry her, I'll marry her. Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched. Was she really that tough? Is he as tough as a man? However, to be able to joke around like this, it was enough to prove that they truly treated her as a friend. She chuckled and rolled her eyes at him. Even if you want to marry me, I'm not willing to marry you. The moment she finished speaking, a low and husky magnetic voice seemed to ring beside her ear again. It was as if it could take away one's soul as it softly said, "If you dare to marry, I will dare to marry." Her pupils suddenly constricted. For a moment, her heart skipped a few beats. That damn evildoer seemed to have really brainwashed her. How could she always inadvertently think of him? Pft, pft, pft. By injecting profound energy into the upper profound stone, one's divine sense would follow the guidance and enter the void space to watch the students' competition. It was Yiqing Luo and Ziling's first time participating, so they didn't know about the upper profound stone. At this moment, he could only stare at the pagoda and watch as the students were eliminated one by one. Yiqing Luo was hesitating whether to take out some money from the profound phoenix ring and let Ziling buy some profound stones. She was very worried about Yi Fengyu's condition. Suddenly, a bag of upper profound stones swayed in front of his eyes. "7th young lady, this is for you." Mu Zifan smiled slightly. Yiqing Luo was slightly startled as she was concerned about Yi Fengyu's condition. She didn't stand on ceremony and accepted it, "Thank you." Mu Zifan smiled elegantly. 8th young master's number is 302. Yiqing Luo nodded and took out a piece of upper profound stone from the bag. After injecting profound energy into it, her divine sense was sent to the entrance of 302. Yiqing Luo casually stepped into the entrance and what greeted her was an extremely strong profound qi, covering the sky and covering the earth. It seemed that the two sides had already started fighting. Chapter 97. It's not that Ling is smart, but your guidance is effective. Ling Fenghua smiled gently, stretched out his finger and gently hooked Yiqing Qian's nose. That doting and loving expression on his face could really deceive a few pure and innocent young ladies in the boudoir. Just like Yiqing Qian, her cheeks were blushing. She immediately thought that the flattery and gentleness she showed to Ling Fenghua these few days had made him change his mind. The smile on her face was even more gentle and coquettish. "Your Highness's praise makes Qian a little embarrassed. You're always so shy." Ling Fenghua pinched her face and gently kissed her on the forehead. He deliberately glanced at Yiqing Luo. But he found that her line of sight was not looking at him at all. Yiqing Luo looked at the ring without blinking, frowning slightly as if she was thinking about something. The anger of being ignored burned Ling Fenghua's heart. At this moment, Yiqing Luo really did not have the mood to care about Ling Fenghua and Yiqing Qian, these two unimportant people. Her heart was completely focused on the arena. She was full of doubts at this moment. Her sight was fixated on Yiqing Ling without blinking. There was a treacherous look in her eyes. Because old man Sang's voice rang in her mind, "Girl, this is bad. That fourth sister of yours has an extremely strong yin qi." Yin qi. Yiqing Luo had heard of it before. The full name was profound yin qi. Cultivators who possessed profound yin qi were all from the dark forces. These people hid in the dark corners of the world, cultivating secret arts that hurt themselves and others. Powerful, mysterious, ruthless. These people were the strange ones who were banished by the entire Nirvana realm. No one knew what kind of force the dark forces were. Just like the strongest palace in the Nirvana realm, the Emperor Palace, so mysterious that it made people shocked. Yiqing Ling was actually related to the people from the dark forces. "It's that sword, it's from the dark forces." Old man Sang's keen perception set his target on that long sword. That sword. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly. From the beginning, she felt that there was something wrong with Yiqing Ling's sword. Unexpectedly, it was from the dark forces. No wonder she could sense an extremely strong chill from the sword. This was the mysterious yin qi. No wonder she felt that Yiqing Ling's swordplay today was different from usual. No wonder Yiqing Ling was still able to stand on the stage after her profound jade heart was pierced. Yiqing Ling, he had probably already made a soul exchange with the sword and completely handed over his body to the sword to control. The source of all this was the long sword shrouded in mysterious yin qi. The doubts that had been plaguing him since he entered the arena had finally been answered. Yiqing Luo let out a sigh of relief. She had thought that Yiqing Ling was the same as her and had also formed a temporary profound jade heart to use. Who would have thought that the current Yiqing Ling was merely a shell controlled by the evil sword? "Little girl, I'm afraid your brother is no match for that sword." Old man Sang worriedly said, "The sword itself is indestructible. It doesn't feel pain, it doesn't feel fear, and the evil sword that is filled with mysterious yin qi is even more fearless. It will only fight until the sword is broken." Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted abruptly. Her fingers clenched into a fist as her eyes turned cold. This match was not fair at all. Even if Yifeng couldn't feel any pain now, he was after all a human and he had direct senses. But Yiqing Ling was just a dead object at this time. Moreover, Yifeng was unable to deal a ruthless blow to Yiqing Ling. But Yiqing Ling, who was controlled by the evil sword, would not show any mercy. Chapter 98. Two figures shuttled back and forth on the ring. Rays of light shone brightly as profound qi soared to the sky. The long sword and the long saber collided with each other, and the profound qi exploded. After a few moves, Yiqing Ling became braver as she held the long sword and kept releasing profound yin qi. At this time, Yiqing Ling's crimson long dress had been tainted with yin qi. Her expression was indifferent, only her pair of eyes were full of resentment and hatred. Although Yifeng had been influenced by Yiqing Luo, she was still his fourth sister. Moreover, he still had to worry about his legs. The moment their profound qi collided, Yiqing Ling's foot landed on his chest. Yifeng felt as if his internal organs had been kicked out of his throat. A mouthful of blood spurted out and he fell heavily to the ground. His chest felt like it was going to explode. Below the ring, Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly as her eyes revealed a bit of worry. Her feet subconsciously took a step forward. Yiqing Qian and Ling Fenghua, who were standing not far away, had been paying attention to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Qian was a smart woman. She naturally felt the way Ling Fenghua looked at Yiqing Luo from time to time. Her heart was jealous, but she could not show it on her face. At this time, seeing Yiqing Luo's expression, she immediately laughed. "Seventh sister, eighth brother better admit defeat, how could he be a match for fourth sister? Just as her voice fell, a sharp gaze like a sharp knife cut straight at her. Under that pair of cold eyes, Yi Qingqian felt a chill down her spine. The Heavenly Academy is all about fairness. I think eldest sister should understand the meaning of this word. Yi Qingluo's clear voice came leisurely. Yi Qingqian's expression changed slightly but pretended to be calm. What do you mean by this? Fourth sister is representing the Three Springs sect in the battle. Do you think she would cheat? I have to ask you. Yi Qingluo turned her head and stared at Yi Qingling, who was laughing with a sword on the ring. Her pink lips curved into a mocking arc. Fourth sister's profound heart jade has long been pierced by me. She has no ability to gather profound qi. Yi Qingqian's expression sunk completely. Let's not talk about whether or not the Yi family has the ability to repair a profound practitioner's profound heart jade. Even if they do, Lord Father would definitely not use it on fourth sister. I have my ways. Yi Qingqian clenched her fists tightly. Shortly after, she hugged Ling Fenghua's arm and her tone became gentle. The monarch has bestowed countless rare treasures to His Royal Highness. There will naturally be treasures to restore the profound heart jade. Ling Fenghua, who was called out, was stunned for a moment. He lowered his head and glanced at Yi Qingqian, not understanding what she meant. Chapter 99. Yi Qingluo saw through her sister's thoughts at a glance. She sneered, her eyes were sharp. Three Springs sect is not that important to me, if Yi Qingling hurt little you today. At this point, the voice paused. Immediately, she took a few steps closer to Yi Qingqian. Her charming eyes reflected a coquettish charm, making one shudder. I will definitely report to the academy that you used something from the dark forces to win. Yi Qingqian's face turned cold. Seventh sister, you misunderstood. Fourth sister is not holding anything from the dark forces, it's just a sword I borrowed from master. When Yi Qingqian was 10 years old, she was chosen by the head of the biggest sect in the Nirvana realm, 10 views, and was brought to the sect to cultivate for 3 years. That head was Yi Qingqian's master. This statement was indeed convincing. The sword of the head of the biggest sect was naturally extraordinary. However, Yi Qingluo would not be fooled by a few words. She had old man Tsang and her own judgment. The long sword in Yi Qingling's hand was definitely a profound Yin object. Whether it's a sword or an evil sword, I think the academy will find out. Yi Qingluo was too lazy to say another word to Yi Qingqian, nor did she care about her sister's twisted expression at this time. She just lightly shifted her gaze to the ring. Numerous holes were blasted out on the ring, flying stones were flying everywhere. Streams of profound energy collided with each other and exploded with a loud bang. Yi Fengyu was obviously forced to retreat again and again by the momentum of the battle. He was hit hard by a sword qi and flew out, rolling on the ground. Eighth brother, if you admit defeat now, I may spare your life. Yi Qingling stood in the air, yin qi lingering around her. That long dark dress was shrouded in yin qi and overflowed with a black breath. Yi Fengyu clutched his chest and forced himself to stand up. He wiped the blood from his lips, his handsome face was as calm as water. After taking Yi Qingluo's medicine, all his senses were blocked. He could not feel any pain. Fourth sister. Yi Fengyu breathed heavily, clutching his chest and gasping for air. His face was pale. I'm sorry, I want to enter the Heavenly Academy. He glanced sideways and fixed his gaze on one side of the arena. If it wasn't for the fact that Yi Qingluo was clear that she and Yi Fengyu were not in the same space, she would have suspected if Yi Fengyu had seen her. Coincidentally, his gaze met hers. Yi Fengyu's eyes were very bright, and the corners of his mouth curled into a firm smile. Immediately, the hand holding the long sword tightened and with a leap, he once again rushed into Yi Qingling's attack range. That one look made Yi Qingluo's heart suddenly trembled. Yi Qingluo understood, He was fighting for her. If it was in the past and Yi Qingling wanted to enter the hospital, he would absolutely be willing to give up this opportunity. He still had one more chance to take the entrance exam. He could take the test again in the future. But today, he wanted to enter the Heavenly Academy and become stronger to protect his sister. No matter what, he could not let go of this opportunity. Yi Fengyu held the sword in one hand and his figure shuttled back and forth between Yi Qingling's sword rays. This time, Yi Fengyu seemed to have an epiphany as he slashed down with his sword and actually struck with an imposing manner. An unprecedented imposing manner. But, after all, the other party was just a body controlled by the evil sword. Although Yi Fengyu's ruthless moves had hurt Yi Qingling, it was just like scratching an itch to her. Chapter 100. Yi Qingling's reaction was extremely sensitive. No. It should be said that the reaction of the evil sword was very sensitive. Every time Yi Fengyu found a flaw in Yi Qingling's body to attack, the evil sword would control Yi Qingling's body to avoid it. It did not give him any chance at all. Yi Fengyu was once again hit by the sword and flew to the ground. Yi Qingluo clenched her fists, her charming eyes were deep and terrifying. She tried her best to suppress the anger in her heart. She could not stop this match. Even if she told the master about the evil sword now, it would take a long time to verify whether the evil sword belonged to the dark forces. There were thousands of people in the heavenly pagoda. It was impossible for the master to give up the whole match for one student. And what if Yi Qingling really went crazy and killed her brother the moment she left? She was anxious and impatient, cursing why the audience and the ring had to be separated into two separate spaces. Otherwise, she would not have told him about the evil sword. Perhaps he felt the anxiety in Yi Qingluo's heart. Yi Fengyu, who was lying on the ground vomiting blood, suddenly turned over and stood up. This time, he didn't lift his saber and rushed forward to meet force with force. Instead, he quickly went behind Yi Qingling, stretched out his long arm and directly grabbed her wrist that was holding the sword. Could it be that the telepathy between siblings is real? Yi Qingluo saw his action and was immediately shocked. This was exactly what she was thinking. Yi Qingling relied on the control of the evil sword to stand on the ring. If her hand was bound, then the evil sword would be controlled. Yi Qingluo stared deeply at her brother's face that was full of blood and a few blue veins popped out on his forehead. His complexion became paler and the fingers that were clasping Yi Qingling's wrist tightened little by little. It seemed that he had exhausted all his strength. Sure enough, Yi Qingling's wrist was bound and she could not release her profound qi. Although this move can resist for a while, your brother's strength is too weak. If he is entangled by the evil sword's yin qi, he will be swallowed by the evil sword. Old man Tsang's worried voice sounded. Yi Qingluo clenched her pink lips. She naturally understood this point as well. But she believed in her brother, believed in his pure heart. If the evil sword wanted to swallow or control humans, it could only catch a trace of darkness in the human heart. Yi Fengyu was a person with a pure heart. You want to steal my sword? Dream on. A tender shout suddenly came from the arena. Only to see Yi Qingling's aura skyrocketing, a pair of bloodshot eyes shining with a penetrating anger. Being entangled by Yi Fengyu and unable to move had already made Yi Qingling distraught. A stream of mysterious yin qi quickly spread out from the sword. Yi Fengyu only felt a sharp pain in his palm. Chapter 101. Yi Fengyu, who was lying motionless on the ground. But after hearing Yi Qingling's arrogant taunts, he tightened his grip on the long sword. The long sword was inserted into the ring. That seemingly thin and weak body slowly stood up with the support of the long saber. Don't you dare say that about my sister. He spat out each word through gritted teeth. Yi Qingling was still laughing, enjoying the joy of victory, and didn't hear his words clearly. She glanced at him contemptuously. Huh. A loser still has last words to say. I. No. Accurate. You. Say. I. Sister. Sister. Kneeling on one knee, the young man held the long sword with both hands. Every word was sonorous and powerful. When the last word fell, Yi Fengyu turned into an arrow that left the bow and rushed straight towards Yi Qingling waving the long sword. A ray of profound light was forced out from his palm and a strong airflow covered the long sword. Yi Qingluo, who was below the ring, suddenly clutched her chest as a burning sensation hit her. Immediately, she saw a five-pointed star pattern under Yi Fengyu's feet, gradually spreading with the release of profound qi. It was Yi Fengyu's profound grade star pattern. Above the crimson-black star pattern, 4 five-pointed stars were floating. This was the display of the mystic profound 4th grade star pattern. Yi Qingluo glanced at Yi Qingqian's side. Both of them looked normal as they stared at Yi Qingling. It seemed that she was the only one who saw the star pattern under Yi Fengyu's feet. Wait a minute. Yi Qingluo frowned slightly. Her charming eyes narrowed slightly as she found that among the 4 star patterns, there was another star pattern that was faintly discernible. Immediately after, a violent explosion broke out on the ring. Profound light flashed and gravel splashed. The flying sand and stones blurred Yi Qingluo's eyes, unable to see the situation on the ring clearly. Until the airflow lingered and rolled up a gale, blowing away the flying sand. At this time, Yi Fengyu's long sword slashed horizontally at Yi Qingling's face. Yi Qingling used her evil sword to block his long sword. The sword and the sword faced each other, flashing lightning current mixed with a trace of yin qi. Yi Fengyu actually advanced at this time. Yi Qingqian cried out in disbelief. She was already at the 8th grade of the mystic profound realm. Naturally, she could sense that Yi Fengyu's strength and aura had undergone an earth-shattering change at this moment. Don't underestimate the advancement of a grade. An ability of the same grade was on a completely different level. How could it be? Ling Fenghua's face darkened, unable to conceal the astonishment on his face. He had investigated Yi Fengyu's information. Although his profound heart jade couldn't be considered low level, it definitely couldn't be considered mid-level aptitude. Otherwise, Yi Fengyu wouldn't have been stuck at the 3rd rank of the mystic profound realm, and hadn't advanced for an entire year. This time, he actually advanced to the profound rank in the arena. Yi Qingluo was rather astonished by Yi Fengyu's advancement. Then, he felt relieved. Cultivating and becoming stronger was just an obsession in one's heart. Just like her, she wanted to survive in a different world. Yi Fengyu, on the other hand, wanted to protect her. When a person is in a desperate situation, it is the easiest to stimulate their latent abilities. Yi Fengyu felt like he was going to die, but his obsession with his sister had awakened his potential. And thus achieved the advancement. This was also why some people worked hard for a lifetime and still couldn't break through the barrier, and why some people could easily advance. Because everyone's state of mind was different. Above the star pattern under Yi Fengyu's feet, the 4 stars had indeed become 5. Mystic profound 5th grade. At this time, Yi Fengyu's whole body was shrouded in the advancement halo. A powerful airflow lingered around his body. Chapter 102. Although Yi Qingling's body had been controlled by the profound yin sword, her consciousness was still there. At this moment, a sense of fear arose in her heart when she saw her brother's cold eyes and the way he fought head-on without a care for his life. How could the cowardly 8th brother who she had always looked down upon have such a strong aura? What kind of magic did Yi Qingluo have? Not only was she reborn, she could also change the people around her. Thinking of Yi Qingluo, Yi Qingling's heart burned with jealousy. I wanted to spare your life. Well, the game is over. The profound yin qi surged in Yi Qingling's eyes. In an instant, countless chilly auras blossomed from her body. The long sword that was confronting her brother began to tremble. Not good. She has merged with the evil sword. Old Man Tsang's anxious voice came. Merged into one. Yi Qing Luo's face turned pale. Yi Qingling actually hated her that much. Even at the cost of sacrificing herself, she wanted to put her brother to death. Becoming one with the evil sword that controlled him was equivalent to completely offering his soul to the evil sword of oblivion. If she was lucky, she could still pull out her consciousness from the evil sword. But if she was unlucky, she would be devoured by the evil sword and become its food. Girl, if you want to save your brother's life, leave here immediately and find the Master of Justice to admit defeat on his behalf. Old Man Tsang quickly gave a solution. Admit defeat. Yi Feng, you had held on until now for this opportunity to enter the academy. He would not agree to admit defeat. Don't think so much. That kid still has one more chance to enter the academy. He still has another chance when the Heavenly Academy recruits new students. Old Man Tsang's voice became more and more impatient. Staying alive is more important than anything else. Even if he lost his life, he would still lose this match. Keep his life and he would still have a future to fight for. Old Man Tsang would not say this for no reason. Yi Qing Luo took a deep look at the stage, at the corner of his mouth overflowing with blood, but still stubbornly refused to let go. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. She condensed her consciousness and returned to the audience area. Ziling saw Yi Qing Luo moving and anxiously grabbed her arm. Miss, 8th young master. 8th young master. Before he could finish speaking, a bag of superior profound stones had already been stuffed into his hand. Yi Qing Luo's figure speedily moved around the spectators' area. Her footsteps were strange, and after a few twists and turns, she was already behind the main stage. Behind the main stage, there were several tables. A few elders in white robes were sitting there lazily. Yi Qing Luo noticed that the metals embedded on their robes were different. They are bar-shaped and of different colors. It should represent their status in the Heavenly Academy. Yi Qing Luo's gaze swiftly searched and finally fixed on an elderly man. The old man was sleeping on the table. Beside him, there were two words written in a flamboyant style: Justice. Yi Qing Luo couldn't see the badge on his chest, so she assumed that this should be the Master of Justice. Yi Qing Luo walked over. The few masters who were still chatting with each other suddenly stopped talking at this moment. Each of them widened their eyes and looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. That's not Old Man Guiyu. That girl actually walked towards Old Man Guiyu. Little girl, do you want to die? How dare you disturb Old Man Guiyu's sleep? Will someone die? It will affect the school spirit of the Heavenly Academy. A group of people were discussing over there. Yi Qing Luo didn't ponder who Old Man Guiyu was at this moment. Chapter 103. The old man who was lying on the ground had no reaction at all. Yi Qing Luo was so anxious that she couldn't care less about the fact that he was a master from the Heavenly Academy. She stretched out her hand to push him. But before her hand could reach him, the unconscious old man's arm was like a poisonous snake as it suddenly came forward and grabbed her slender wrist. Yi Qing Luo's eyes darkened as she pressed the old man's withered fingers. She exerted her strength to break free from his grip. Who is it? Who dares to touch me while I'm sleeping? The old man woke up as he roared and slammed the table as he stood up. Yi Qing Luo saw the old man's appearance clearly. The old man was over 50 years old. He was thin and had a squarish face. He had a white beard. No matter how she looked at him, he was just an ordinary old man. But Yi Qing Luo couldn't ignore his pair of bright and piercing eyes. It was very sharp, and it shone brightly. When he saw clearly that the one standing in front of him was a delicate girl, his face turned even uglier. Master of Justice, I want to admit defeat on behalf of my brother. Yi Qing Luo immediately said. What do you mean admit defeat? Don't bother me. The old man waved his hand with an impatient look. It's just a competition. Is your school trying to kill someone? Yi Qing Luo was anxious. She didn't know what was going on in the arena. But she understood that if she didn't end Xiao Yu's competition soon, she was afraid Xiao Yu's life would really be at stake. If one skill is not as good as others, even if he dies, he will still live. Before the old man could finish his sentence, he was interrupted. Because the little girl in front of him flipped her palm and the bowl of cold water on the table floated straight into the air and covered the old man's head. Her action was swift and without hesitation. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were cold and her tone was covered with frost. Skill is not as good as others. If it's really not as good as others, I won't say a word. She sneered and looked straight at the old man. The dignified Heavenly Academy, during the ability assessment, students used illegal items to compete and you didn't even realize it. This is the school's lack of supervision. However, the surrounding masters completely ignored Yi Qing Luo's words. They looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. Were they seeing things? Someone dared to splash water on old man Guiyu's head. Who was old man Guiyu? He was an existence that no one in the entire academy dared to offend. In the entire Heavenly Academy, there were only a handful of people who could tie with old man Guiyu. Most importantly, this old man Guiyu was a crazy old man. Even the headmaster had to avoid him when he saw him. This little girl dared to provoke old man Guiyu. This was definitely going to kill someone. Chapter 104. On the square, Ziling was half kneeling on the ground, dragging a bloody man in the crook of her arm. Yi Fengyu's green robe was stained with blood, and fresh blood was constantly overflowing from his body. Ziling's clothes were also stained with a large patch of red. Yi Qing Luo stood on the side, expressionless. A pair of charming eyes that seemed to be covered with frost quietly stared at Yi Fengyu. His face was pale, and the corner of his mouth overflowed with blood. His hand tightly grasped the long knife. Even if he was unconscious, he was not willing to let go. That long knife, only half of it was left. Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped, and her chest was choked with discomfort. She just stood there, her slender body trembling slightly. She did not dare to touch the young man who was lying there quietly. The Mu brothers also came out of the space where they were watching, and immediately trotted over when they saw the current situation. Mu Zifan half-squatted down and quickly gave Yi Fengyu a simple examination: serious internal injury, excessive blood loss, urgent treatment. Mu Zifei took out a few medicinal pills and stuffed them into Yi Fengyu's mouth. First stop the bleeding, call someone to bring the stretcher. Two doctors surrounded Yi Fengyu, busily rushing back and forth. The onlookers all sucked in a breath of cold air. They rubbed their eyes and looked again. Damn it, they were not mistaken, they were really the two young masters of the Mu family. The future leader of the Alchemist Guild, the successor of the Mu family's medicine shop, was treating an unknown young master. One must know that many people in the past begged the Mu brothers to see a doctor, and even offered all their family property. They may not be able to get the Mu brothers to agree. Even the people from the royal family could not shake them in the slightest. After everyone saw the serious injury of Yi Fengyu, they all observed a moment of silence for the person who injured Yi Fengyu. Oh, this is the consequence of angering me. Yi Qingling's insolent voice came from the side. Because Yi Fengyu admitted defeat, Yi Qingqian and the others also teleported out from the number 302 space. Seeing the woman standing quietly in the square, she lowered her head and stared at Yi Fengyu, as if she was crying. Yi Qingling's heart was full of joy. Yi Qing Luo dared to destroy her profound jade heart. Then she would use the cruelest way to expel the people around Yi Qing Luo step by step. She wanted to see Yi Qing Luo in so much pain that she wished to die. Yi Qingling thought about it bitterly, the smile in her eyes added a bit of viciousness. Seventh sister, elder sister has already advised you and eighth brother that if you really can't win, just admit defeat. Look. Why did it have to come to this? Yiqing Jian followed closely behind, pretending to be gentle and pitiful. You can't blame others if you're too weak. In this world, the strong are respected. Ling Fenghua's lips curled up as he spoke. In actual fact, when he saw Yiqing Luo standing there expressionlessly while Yiqing Luo was seriously injured and unconscious, he felt extremely refreshed. His cold eyes narrowed slightly as he strode complacently towards Yiqing Luo. The current Yiqing Luo was like a stray dog. He didn't believe that at this point in time, Yiqing Luo wouldn't open her mouth to beg him for help to teach Yiqing Ling a harsh lesson. If you want revenge, Ling Fenghua's self-righteous words had just left his mouth. Yiqing Luo turned her head and looked at the Mu brothers. Please, if little you is fine, I will repay your kindness tenfold. After saying that, she walked past Ling Fenghua and completely ignored him. Yiqing Luo walked directly to the main stage. Her line of sight was fixed on old man Gue Yu, who followed her out from the backstage. I want to participate in the admission assessment. On the main stage sat 3 masters, all of whom were highly respected in the Heavenly Academy. Seeing Yiqing Luo's rudeness, their faces sank. Chapter 105. The implication was that if Yiqing Luo wanted to take revenge for her brother, then there was no chance. Because in the ability assessment 3 days later, Yiqing Ling had already become an official student and could not accept any challenges. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, her eyes narrowed with a cold glint. Half an hour. The crowd was stunned for a moment, unable to react to the meaning of Yiqing Luo's words. By the time they recovered their wits, the square was in an uproar. Passed the 10 assessments in half an hour. What a joke. For hundreds of years, the shortest record was 24 hours, and this was set by the genius from the Yi family hundreds of years ago. How could anyone break this record? The crowd pointed their fingers at the girl in the middle of the square. No one would believe it. Even the 3 masters on the main stage felt that Yiqing Luo was making fun of them. However, only old man Gue Yu stared at Yiqing Luo meaningfully. After a while, he stroked his beard and smiled cunningly. All right. I will make an exception for you on behalf of the Heavenly Academy. As long as you can pass the 10 assessments in half an hour, you can directly become an official student of the Heavenly Academy. The masters wanted to refuse, but after old man Gue Yu opened his mouth, they swallowed their words. This old man Gue Yu, what kind of existence was he in the Heavenly Academy? Looking at the badge on his chest, there was only 1 yellow bar. He seemed to be the lowest level master in the Heavenly Academy. But, on the main stage, those teachers with 5 to 6 horizontal bars were also very respectful towards old man Gue Yu. When old man Gue Yu opened his mouth, they didn't even dare to make a sound. Strange, so strange. While Yiqing Luo was deep in thought, old man Gue Yu continued, if you can't pass in half an hour, I'm at your disposal. Yiqing Luo raised her head, her eyes were full of confidence. There's no need for disposal. If you can't pass in half an hour, then you will be my disciple. How about that? Disciple? Old man Gue Yu, you're not serious, are you? The 3 masters on the stage widened their eyes and stood up in shock, pointing at old man Gue Yu. There are so many geniuses in the academy, but you chose this one. Don't you know, she is the one from 3 Springs sect. Many people had heard of Yiqing Luo's good name, but had never seen her before. Hearing the headmaster's words, the person from the 3 Springs sect immediately understood. This beautiful but extremely arrogant woman was the useless young master of the 3 Springs sect. Even if a piece of trash who had been trash for more than 10 years suddenly comprehended the cultivation method, it would still be impossible for him to pass the 10 tests that countless profound practitioner geniuses feared within an hour. Chapter 106. Shut up. How can the person I fancy be a waste? Old man Guiyu glared at the few people behind him. If you scare my disciple away, I will kill you all. The faces of the three teachers were red and green from being reprimanded in public. However, they suppressed their anger and sat down, not saying another word. This old man Guiyu was not a simple person. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly, her pink lips hooked and nodded. All right, I will bet with you. Old man Guiyu was all smiles as he jumped down from the main stage and stood in front of Yiqing Luo. He stretched out his hand and gently patted her shoulder. My good disciple, I will wait for your return here. Ha ha ha. He had already regarded Yiqing Luo as his disciple. Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched. If you don't play any tricks, half an hour is enough. No, no, I am such an upright and kind person, how could I play tricks behind your back? Old man Guiyu waved his hand. The crowd couldn't believe their ears when they saw the scene in front of them. One by one, they dug their ears and rubbed their eyes. But the image of old man Guiyu smiling at Yiqing Luo was still fresh in their minds. What the hell? It was not an illusion. It was not a hallucination. Old man Guiyu really wanted to take Yiqing Luo as his disciple? Especially Yiqing Qian, her gentle and beautiful eyes were unable to conceal her own hatred and jealousy. Old man Guiyu was just an ordinary and lowly master in the eyes of ordinary people. But as one of the four sects, Three Springs sect, how could they not know the name of old man Guiyu? Even her master, the head of Shijing sect, was not as high as old man Guiyu. Why was Yiqing Luo so lucky? Previously she had the overlord's clothes and now old man Guiyu had his eyes on her. She was just a waste, what right did she have? The more Yiqing Qian thought about it, the more jealousy she felt. Her little hands clutched her exquisite robe and wrinkled it. Where do we go for the assessment? Yiqing Luo didn't want to waste any more time. Old man Guiyu's lips curled up as a trace of cunning flashed across his eyes. With a sway of his white robe, the heaven pagoda in the middle of the square shook slightly. Shortly after, a door opened beneath the heavenly pagoda. When a ray of white light shot out from the open door, the three masters on the main stage could not sit still. Old man Guiyu, you are. Before he could say anything, old man Guiyu glared at him. Was there something wrong with this door? The expressions of the three teachers were obviously very surprised. What did old man Guiyu do? He was really persistent. In order to take her in as his disciple, he was going all out. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath. No matter what old man Guiyu did, as long as it was the 10 assessments, she would be fine. After that, she walked towards the pagoda. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted as she frowned. The tens of thousands of people kneeling on the ground raised their heads and looked left and right, wondering who Di Zun was calling. But no one was seen walking towards Dmo Xian. Following his line of sight, all of them looked towards Yiqing Luo. But very quickly, he shifted his gaze away from Yiqing Luo and looked towards the direction of the crowd. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched, she knew that Dmo Xian was referring to her. She didn't want to become famous in this way. If she got involved with Dmo Xian, she would also become the target of everyone's gossip. Yiqing Luo immediately lifted her legs and quickened her pace towards the profound pagoda. On the main stage, the tall and stalwart man's thin lips curved slightly as his eyes squinted slightly. Suddenly, he leaped up and stuck close to Yiqing Luo. His long arm hooked around Yiqing Luo's waist, his long hair cascaded over her shoulders. Chapter 108. The air seemed to have solidified. The atmosphere was strange and a little scary. Yiqing Luo's face suddenly darkened. Let go. Dmo Xian rested his head on her shoulder. We haven't seen each other for a few days. Ah Luo, don't you miss me? I don't. He answered without hesitation. Yiqing Luo's eyes twitched. You are the overlord, aren't you afraid of being laughed at by pestering a waste like me? Laugh? Who dares to laugh? Dmo Xian's deep black eyes glanced around, his lips curled up into a very shallow sneer. Whoever laughs, I will destroy that person. That aura that looked down on the entire world suppressed everyone present, and no one dared to make a sound. Did he need to be so overbearing? Yiqing Luo now deeply understood what it meant by the fist is the hard truth, what it meant by the strong being respected. Those who came to watch the ability assessment were mostly rich and powerful. The 4 great families, 4 great sects, various forces and so on, had all sent their representatives here. These people in the Nirvana realm, no matter where they went, they would be flattered and fawned upon. However, in front of Dmo Xian, they were as humble as ants. No one dared to laugh, no one dared to make a sound. Dmo Xian retracted his gaze. When he looked at Yiqing Luo, the expression on his face was tainted with gentleness. Ah Luo, aren't you going to ask me where I have been these days? Where you have been, what has it got to do with me? Yiqing Luo sneered, broke away from his arm and looked up at him. A pair of slightly narrowed charming eyes, cold and absolutely without any extra emotions. Although Yiqing Luo's words were so ruthless. But in her heart, there was an inexplicable feeling of relief. It seemed, she was glad that Dmo Xian had indeed returned. The last time they parted on bad terms, it was as if nothing had happened. This thought made Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly tremble. She immediately lowered her eyes, her long curly eyelashes were like butterfly wings, gently fluttering a few times, slightly flustered. I'm going to participate in the entrance assessment first. Yiqing Luo turned to leave. Her wrist was once again held by Dmo Xian. Wait. His slender fingers easily circled around the hand that was encircled by the ring. Yiqing Luo stared at the circle of warmth on her wrist and was no longer as resistant as before. This is for you. Dmo Xian opened his palm and a red feather fan floated above his palm. His fingers moved slightly and the feather fan automatically moved into Yiqing Luo's hands. The moment the feather fan entered her hands, Yiqing Luo could obviously feel that this feather fan's texture and material was absolutely not an ordinary item. In particular, this feather fan was blood red in color, and the red feathers were faintly flickering with red electric currents. Just like the profound phoenix ring, it exuded a mysterious power. This is... Yiqing Luo's fingers waved the feather fan, it felt great and smooth. Dmo Xian's black eyes narrowed as his long and narrow eyes curled into a devilish arc. Betrothal gift. Do you have to say something so shocking? Yiqing Luo had the impulse to return the feather fan to Dmo Xian. Girl, this is a good weapon, a good weapon. In her mind, old man Song's excited voice suddenly came, gourd flame fan. This is a devouring flame fan that can grow. Glowing flame fan. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted as she looked at the feather fan in disbelief. There was only one gourd flame fan in the world. Although it was not a legendary weapon, but it was more precious than a legendary weapon. Because the gourd flame fan had the attribute of growth. It could grow step by step according to the user's ability. Girl, don't you ever reject it. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Old man Song knew Yiqing Luo too well and was afraid that she would really return the gourd flame fan to Dmo Xian, so he spoke quickly. Chapter 109. Yiqing Luo wasn't a hypocritical person. But Dmo Xian's betrothal gift really shocked her. This wasn't the first time Dmo Xian brought up this topic with her. Although she knew very well that it was impossible for her to have any relationship with the almighty overlord. But everyone has a love for beauty. She was after all a woman. Hearing such a peerless handsome man flirting with her time and time again. What if she took it seriously? Then wouldn't it be better if it becomes real? Dmo Xian suddenly leaned close to her face and his warm breath sprayed on her skin. That warm and moist touch gave Yiqing Luo goosebumps on her skin. The woman in his arms trembled slightly, and her ears turned red in an instant. Seeing this, the smile in Dmo Xian's eyes deepened. Yiqing Luo heard his smiling voice and her cheeks turned red. How did he know what she was thinking? And what did he mean by that? Then become real. What the hell was that? Damn it. Could he not always say something that would cause people to misunderstand? Yiqing Luo silently praised the overlord's flirting skills for 32 times in her heart. Don't let your imagination run wild, don't think too much. Yiqing Luo hypnotized herself and took a deep breath. Suddenly her elbow lifted up and following that, she lifted up her leg and kicked backwards fiercely. Dmo Xian seemed to have expected Yiqing Luo's action. His body tilted slightly and with a grasp of his arm, he easily blocked Yiqing Luo's attack. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yiqing Luo's figure turned and the gorgeous sunset robe fluttered like a blooming rose. Her wrist instantly broke free from Dmo Xian's grip. Yiqing Luo retreated 5 steps away from Dmo Xian. I'll accept the glower flame fan, I owe you a favor and will definitely repay it in the future. Yiqing Luo's index finger fanned the feather fan as she clasped her hands together and cupped her fists towards Dmo Xian. Finishing her words, she turned around and headed towards the direction of the heavenly pagoda. Behind her, Dmo Xian's abstruse eyes were like obsidian, pitch black and undistinguishable, so treacherous that not a single color could be seen. The corners of his lips curled upwards and the arc of his eyes became deeper. The surrounding people held their breaths, their hearts beating like drums. Get up. Dmo Xian slowly turned around, the expression on his face had already reverted to his usual icy cold and dignified expression. He slowly walked towards the main stage. The 3 masters immediately gave up their positions and stood beside Dmo Xian in a fawning manner, carefully serving him. Everyone had the same question in their hearts. How did the overlord know the 7th young mistress of the Yi clan? Furthermore, their feelings for each other were clearly extraordinary. Especially Yiqing Qian, her entire face was completely twisted. The last time when Yiqing Luo had a corner of Dmo Xian's robe, she was already guessing the relationship between Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. But it had been a long time since he had seen Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo in contact, and heard from Yuchiya that Dmo Xian was only interested in Yiqing Luo for a moment. Thus, he did not take the matter of the clothes to heart. But, today, Yiqing Qian had personally witnessed Dmo Xian's attitude towards Yiqing Luo. That gaze was filled with love. What right did a piece of trash, a notorious piece of trash, have to be favored by the overlord? The person whom the overlord liked should be her, Yiqing Qian. How could Yiqing Luo be worthy of the overlord? The countless grievances in her heart made Yiqing Qian determined that she must firmly hook Dmo Xian into her heart. Chapter 110. After entering the heavenly pagoda, Yiqing Luo was transported to a void space. As for the 10 assessments, if she did not guess wrongly, it should be based on the comprehensive strength of intelligence, ability, strength, potential and so on before entering the Heavenly Academy to undergo the assessment. These, to Yiqing Luo, could be passed in minutes even with her eyes closed. In her previous life, she was regarded as the future head of the family since young. Whatever 10 assessments, whatever tests, those old men would come up with different ways to assess if she had regressed. So, whatever assessment, it was not a problem for her. That was why she dared to say half an hour. After her marrow cleansing, with the help of old man Tsang, and after passing the first layer of purgatory, her strength had been greatly improved. Her profound grade had now reached the yellow profound 9th grade. Although this profound grade was not considered the top among the students in the Heavenly Academy, but it was at least an intermediate level. What's more, she had the sacred beast Chi Chi and the glower flame fan that Dmo Xian gave her. After the first assessment began, Yiqing Luo's face revealed a satisfied smile. Sure enough, it was as she expected. The 10 assessments were exactly the same as her assessment in the modern era. The only difference was the slight difference in strength. But it did not matter. At the assessment square, there were students who were eliminated one after another, and there were also numerous students who challenged the successful students. But obviously, the attention of the people in the field was no longer on these students. They were all looking up, their eyes wandering between the heavenly pagoda and the main stage. On the main stage, the incense which represented half an hour had already burned halfway. Time passed by in a flash. Everyone's heart was in their throats. Old man Guiyu, half an hour. Can she really pass the assessment? The 3 masters had a complicated expression on their faces. They did not like Yiqing Luo. If she could really pass the assessment in half an hour, she would become an official student of the Heavenly Academy. If it was more than half an hour, Yiqing Luo would be accepted as a disciple by Old Man Guiyu. Based on Old Man Guiyu's protective character, wouldn't Yiqing Luo be able to do whatever she wanted in the Heavenly Academy? Their idea was to hope that Yiqing Luo failed the assessment, then they would have enough excuses to refuse her admission. But now there was the Overlord. Their hearts almost collapsed. If Yiqing Luo failed the assessment, the Overlord would be infuriated. The consequences were simply too frightening. They didn't dare to think about it. The assessment shouldn't be a problem, but it's only an hour, he. Old man Guiyu smiled slyly, his eyes curved. I have specially chosen the 10 most complicated assessments in the Heavenly Pagoda. I will definitely accept this disciple. The 3 masters turned to look at Dmo Xian. But she discovered that Dmo Xian had been resting with his eyes closed and did not show any displeasure towards Old Man Guiyu's words. They heaved a sigh of relief and surrounded Old Man Guiyu to stop him from talking. 10 of the most complicated tests. How is it possible to finish it in an hour? In the 3 Spring Sex area, Yiqing Ling revealed a gloating smile. This little waste is too good at showing off. I think she won't even be able to pass the assessment and will only bring shame to the Yi family. That was what everyone else was thinking. A few hundred years ago, the one who set the record of 24 hours was still a simple test of 10. Yiqing Qian's vision had always been on Dmo Xian. Hearing Yiqing Ling's words, her red lips curved slightly and nodded slightly. Arrogant, you have to bear the consequences. She even dared to talk big in front of the Overlord and attract his attention. The 10 most complicated tests that were tricked by Old Man Guiyu in half an hour. Ha! Chapter 111. Half an hour was neither long nor short. There was still a small part of the burning incense left. Old Man Guiyu smiled brightly, his face beaming with joy. Even the way he looked at Dmo Xian was filled with pride. The only thing missing was the word son-in-law. The 3 masters were sweating profusely as they tugged at Old Man Guiyu. They thought to themselves, Old Man Guiyu is indeed a madman. He is not even afraid of the Overlord, please don't implicate them and cause them to lose their lives. Just as the main stage was bustling, a ray of white light flashed in the Heaven Pagoda. Vaguely, he seemed to see a slender figure leisurely stepping out from the profound pagoda. She's out. It's the 7th Miss of the Yi family. She really came out. Half an hour. It's not even half an hour. There's still a small part of the incense left. Oh my God. This is definitely an illusion. How could it be possible? How could she pass 10 assessments in half an hour? Suddenly, the crowd broke out in a flabbergasted discussion. Everyone's eyes widened in surprise. The white light contrasted with the setting sun. The woman in a flamboyant red dress walked over gracefully. Her fine black hair fluttered along with the strong wind, and the corner of her skirt was like a blooming flower. The woman was devastatingly beautiful, exuding a suffocating beauty. A palm-sized kitten sat on the woman's shoulder, adding a touch of gentleness to the woman. Everyone's eyes followed closely on the woman, unable to move away. Half an hour passed. The woman's pink lips curved slightly as she looked up at the main stage. Her tone was flat and her expression was indifferent. She was not the least bit excited about passing 10 assessments in half an hour. The three masters' jaws dropped to the ground as they rubbed their eyes in disbelief. And the masters, their figures flashed and went straight into the heaven pagoda to check if there was any loophole that allowed Yi Qing Luo to cheat. But after going around the pagoda, they did not find any problems. The three masters discussed with the four masters who were guarding the square and the heaven pagoda. These four masters were the masters of justice. They knew everything that was going on in the pagoda like the back of their hands. The four of them were extremely certain that Yi Qing Luo had used her own ability to pass the 10 assessments in one go, without any form of cheating. The time it took to brew a cup of tea had passed. The three main examiners returned to the main stage stiffly and announced, "Congratulations to 7th Miss Yi Qing Luo for passing the complicated 10 rounds of assessment in less than half an hour. She has been specially approved to become an official student of the Heavenly Academy." "My disciple is ruined." Old man Gue Yu's smile froze on his face. He opened his mouth wide and pointed at Yi Qing Luo. "My disciple, can't you give me some face?" His face fell and he covered his face. "My disciple. It's rare for me to accept a disciple." The three sovereign god teachers, who had been frozen stiff, were already rooted to the spot. There was no expression on their faces at all. Yi Qing Luo walked slowly towards the main stage, but her sight was fixated on Yi Qing Ling. That icy cold gaze was like a poisonous snake, wrapping around Yi Qing Ling's neck. Yi Qing Ling felt a chill down her spine and subconsciously tightened her grip on the long sword in her hand. Just when Yi Qing Ling was on tenterhooks, she saw Yi Qing Luo walking straight towards old man Gue Yu. "Senior, I have already been apprenticed to the master. I cannot betray the master and be apprenticed to you. If Senior does not mind, please accept my younger brother Xiao Yu as your disciple." Although she did not know much about old man Gue Yu, but she knew that he was definitely a person with a strong influence. Chapter 112. Old man Gue Yu frowned and stroked his mustache. "Who is it? Who is it? Who dares to snatch my disciple from me?" Those who knew old man Gue Yu's identity stared at her fiercely after hearing Yi Qing Ling's rejection. They couldn't believe their ears. Someone actually refused to be old man Gue Yu's disciple. How many people wanted to be old man Gue Yu's disciple? But old man Gue Yu's temperament was eccentric and temperamental. Even the director couldn't control him and refused to accept him as a disciple. Yi Qing Luo actually gave up such a good opportunity. One by one, they were guessing who Yi Qing Luo's master was to make her reject old man Gue Yu and not betray her master. Yi Qing Luo only raised her eyes and glanced at Dmo Xian's direction before immediately withdrawing her gaze. She didn't say a word, but this action was like a stone falling into the calm water, setting off a huge wave. 7th Mrs. Master is actually the Overlord. No wonder, the elusive Overlord would appear here. He even specially brought the glower flame fan for 7th Miss. Damn! With the Overlord as her master, if it was me, I would not betray the master either. As long as she was involved with Dmo Xian, all the impossible became possible. Just like Yi Qing Luo, who had been useless for more than 10 years, suddenly became so powerful. Just like Yi Qing Luo, who could pass the most complicated 10 assessments. Everything was so natural. Damn, damn, damn. Overlord boy. You actually beat me to it. Old man Gue Yu blew his beard angrily. Overlord boy. Sounds of people sucking in cold breaths could be heard from all around. This, perhaps only old man Guiyu dared to call Dmo Xian like this. The extremely lazy man slowly straightened his body. His long and narrow eyes squinted, his slender fingers seemed to be unconsciously playing with the ring between his fingers. The curve of his rosy lips faintly revealed a bit of evil. Just a glance and old man Guiyu, who was still rolling up his sleeves in indignation, instantly lost all his arrogance. He caressed his white robe and snorted a cold breath. Fine. I won't accept this girl, I won't. I will accept this lass's younger brother as my disciple. When she sees me, she will still have to call me teacher. After that, old man Guiyu rubbed his nose and looked at Yiqing Luo unwillingly. Little girl, just you wait, when I defeat the overlord, I will snatch you back. Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched. Old man Guiyu's obsession with taking her as his disciple was too deep. Little disciple, come over. Dmo Xian suddenly raised his hand and beckoned towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Little disciple. What the hell? This time round, Yiqing Luo's eyes also twitched. She braced herself and resigned herself to fate as she walked over, fearing that Dmo Xian would put on another, if you don't come over, then go over, drama. Flipping over onto the main stage, Yiqing Luo stood in front of Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian stretched out his hand and patted his thighs. Little disciple, sit here. The way the two of them acted as if there was no one else around made the jaws of the surrounding people drop to the ground. Previously they had guessed that Dmo Xian was Yiqing Luo's master. Now that Dmo Xian had called her little disciple in public, didn't that mean that he had admitted it? But the atmosphere between them was really not like that of a master and disciple. On the contrary, it was like a pair of lovers throwing a tantrum. This thought made everyone present shake off their goosebumps. Not only the crowd had goosebumps, even Yiqing Luo had goosebumps all over her body. Sit over there. Sit in his arms. Chapter 113. Yiqing Luo turned her head stiffly, pretending not to see Dmo Xian, and looked directly at the Three Springs sect. When her line of sight was fixed on Yiqing Ling, her gaze became awe-inspiring. Since I've passed the admission assessment, then I will now challenge the students who have passed the ability assessment. That's right. The purpose of her participation in the entrance examination was to defeat Yiqing Ling and destroy the evil sword that had caused serious injury to her brother. It was not for the sake of squabbling with Dmo Xian. Yiqing Ling subconsciously shrank behind Yiqing Luo, frightened by the look in her eyes. He gripped the demonic sword in his hand tightly, as if this was the only way he could feel at ease. You have the right to refuse, don't accept her challenge. Yiqing Qian lowered her voice and said quietly. Yiqing Ling's breathing quickened as she nodded stiffly. The two sisters were discussing when they saw Yiqing Luo condense her profound qi and spread her voice. As everyone knows, the Heavenly Academy's recruitment of new students is extremely rigorous and strict. It also upholds the principle of fairness and openness, resolutely protecting the fairness of all students' assessment. As she spoke, Yiqing Luo's gaze had already shifted to the main stage and the three masters. I would like to report that the fourth miss of the Three Springs sect, Yiqing Ling, in order to pass the ability assessment, did not hesitate to borrow the power of the dark forces to obtain the qualification to pass. May the masters investigate this. When Yiqing Luo said that, it shocked everyone present. Everyone's eyes were instantly focused on the Three Springs sect's area. Dark forces. The righteous Three Springs sect was actually involved with the dark forces that were despised by the world. He had actually fallen to the point where he needed to borrow the power of the dark forces to pass the ability assessment. Everyone's gazes changed from the initial admiration to disdain and mockery. Yiqing Qian's expression instantly darkened. She had never expected that Yiqing Luo would disregard the Three Springs sect's reputation and expose Yiqing Ling in public. And because Yi Qingling had been pressured by Yi Qing Luo's gaze several times, her heart was palpitating with fear and trepidation. The only way she could feel at ease was to hold on to that long sword. Under the watchful eyes of the public, Yi Qingling naturally had no way to hide the evil sword, otherwise it would look like she had a guilty conscience. At this moment, Yi Qingqian finally understood why Yi Qing Luo hadn't reported them right from the start. Instead, he purposely used an hour to pass the entrance exam to stun them, occasionally glancing at them from the corner of his eyes. It was to arouse the fear and dread in Yi Qingling's heart. In this way, he would be caught red-handed. In the depths of Yi Qingqian's beautiful eyes, there was a look of deep thought. Her seventh sister actually had such a terrifying shrewdness. You are slandering me. Yi Qingling blushed under everyone's stares and stood up in anger. This sword is borrowed by my eldest sister from her master. It's naturally different from ordinary swords. The devouring flame fan in your hand was also given to you by His Majesty. It is also different from ordinary fans. Yi Qingling was smart for once. Don't tell me that you're using this glower flame fan to take the entrance exam and I have to say that you're borrowing the power of the dark forces. What he said seemed to make sense. Moreover, that sword was borrowed from the head of Shijing's sect, so it was natural for Yi Qingling to improve her strength. Seventh Miss Yi, just as fourth Miss Yi said, do you have any evidence to prove that she had used something from the dark forces? The master carefully asked Yi Qing Luo while looking at Dmo Xian's expression. Chapter 114. This challenge, Yi Qingling could neither accept nor reject it. If she rejected it, it would be a tacit admission that her long sword belonged to the dark forces and it would implicate the Shijing sect's head. If she accepted the challenge, it would be fine if she defeated Yi Qing Luo. But if she lost, wouldn't that expose the evil sword and the dark forces item? Let everyone know that Three Springs sect colluded with the dark forces. Three Springs sect would be completely destroyed. Did Yi Qing Luo really want to destroy Three Springs sect? Why? Is fourth sister afraid? Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes raised slightly as a playful smile hung on the corner of her mouth. Yi Qingling was so angry that her whole body trembled and was about to open her mouth when her sister pinched the flesh on her arm. She endured and ignored Yi Qing Luo's provocation. Even if fourth sister doesn't dare to accept the challenge, I think the Master of Justice will do a comprehensive check on the profounding item in fourth sister's hand. Yi Qing Luo sighed faintly and murmured casually. But this murmur was clearly transmitted to Yi Qingling's ears even though it was a long distance away. Immediately, Yi Qing Luo raised her head and her eyes were full of ridicule. Forget it, since fourth sister is still so afraid of me even with the help of the divine item, I have nothing to say. Yi Qing Luo's words made everyone present look at Yi Qingling with even more ridicule and disdain. Even with the sword borrowed from the Shijing sect's head, she didn't dare to accept the challenge of a useless sister for more than 10 years. Everyone began to question whether Yi Qingling's sword was a profounding item and they all threatened to ask the Master of Justice to thoroughly investigate Yi Qingling's weapon. When everyone looked at Yi Qing Luo, their faces were full of worship and surprise, and some of their eyes were full of reverence. In this strange world where the strong were respected, strength was respected. This was the benefit of strength. Even if you used to be a waste that was reviled by others. But once you had enough strength to make others fearful, those black spots would be completely erased. Who said I'm afraid of you? Alright, let's do it. Yi Qingling had always been thin-skinned and had always been flattered by others. At this time, under Yi Qing Luo's words, everyone looked at her with such disdain and ridicule. Her fragile heart couldn't take it anymore. She immediately stood up and pointed her long sword at Yi Qing Luo. Seventh sister, I'm just trying to save your face, to save the Overlord's face. That's why I'm tolerating you again and again, but you insist on being so overbearing. Fourth sister won't be courteous. Yi Qingjian's face stiffened and the hand that was holding on to Yi Qingling slipped down without a trace. Damn idiot. Chapter 115. That's enough. A low voice came from the other side of the audition stage. Ling Fenghua stood up and frowned in displeasure. What's with all this noise? If 7th Miss wants to challenge, just do it. Your Highness. Yi Qingqian pursed her pink lips. The little girl immediately hooked onto Ling Fenghua's arm. Her voice became more and more coquettish. The challenge is a small matter, I'm afraid. I'm afraid 7th sister will treat Ling her. I know the rules of the Heavenly Academy. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes and directly interrupted Yi Qingqian's words. A competition is just a competition. Stop where it's appropriate and there won't be any deaths. After all, 4th sister still left little you with his last breath, isn't it? Yi Qingling's face turned pale with fright. A chill ran down her spine and she began to regret her impulsive decision to accept Yi Qingluo's challenge. Yi Qingluo did not hide her purpose at all. She wanted to tell everyone present that she, Yi Qingluo, was no longer the same as before. Now, she was going to cast her own glory. Who dared to bully her people? They would be hunted down to the heavens and the earth. Don't be so long-winded, hurry up and challenge if you want to, I still want to study that sword. Old man Guiyu impatiently urged. He was originally a restless person, listening to the two people chattering here, his face was already full of impatience. Things that can be solved with fists, don't waste time talking and waste time. Yi Qingluo looked at Yi Qingling mockingly, snorted lightly, and immediately walked towards the profound pagoda. Yi Qingling had no way out at this time, especially when she heard that old man Guiyu wanted to study the sword, her heart was even more uneasy. She was so scared that she cowered behind Yi Qingluo. 4th Miss, wait. Suddenly, the clear and melodious voice that hadn't sounded for a long time suddenly sounded out from the main stage. Yi Qingling stopped in her tracks, her eyes widened and turned her head in ecstasy. Was the Overlord calling her? The Overlord actually took the initiative to call her. Yi Qingling blushed and revealed a bashful look. Overlord. Dmo Xian's eyes narrowed slightly, he lazily stretched out his slender fingers and stroked his rosy lips. This action made Yi Qingling's blood tank empty, her face flushed red and she almost fainted. Since it's a competition, there's no need to give me face, just go all out. Dmo Xian's thin lips curved upwards. This sentence was like a thunderclap. His HP bar emptied and his face flushed red were all replaced by the sound of thunder. Yi Qingluo burst out laughing, as the gaze which she shot towards Dmo Xian was filled with smiles. Dmo Xian was simply like a godly knife. At this moment, Yi Qingling had suffered a crushing defeat in the competition and there was no way she could find an excuse to say that she had been lenient on account of the Overlord. Instead, she had to give it her all. Otherwise, it would be disrespecting Dizun. Dmo Xian had sealed Yi Qingling's last route of retreat. Old man Guiyu shouted, open the challenge space. I want to watch the battle. The 4 masters of justice leaped up and circled around the heavenly pagoda. At the same time, a dazzling light shot out from their palms. After the brilliance dissipated, Yi Qingluo and Yi Qingling had already disappeared from the public square. Immediately after that, the purple-robed nobleman on the main audition stage disappeared. The Overlord had followed them to the heavenly pagoda to watch Yi Qingluo's competition. Everyone's heart tightened as they took out their profound stones and chose to challenge Yi Qingluo. Chapter 116. The space of the challenge ring was slightly different from the space of the ability assessment. Both Yi Qingluo and Yi Qingling could hear the voices of the audience and they could also talk to the audience. The two of them stood on the stage as Yi Qingluo waved her feather fan with a leisurely look. On the contrary, Yi Qingling's little face was pale, her eyes were filled with unwillingness and fear. The surrounding noise made Yi Qingling's delicate body tremble. There were at least 100 people in the audience space. Dmo Xian sat at the head of the table with old man Gue Yu, who came to watch the fun. The audience behind the two were all famous people. Yi Qingling was even more frightened. She was afraid that these people would see that there was something wrong with the long sword in her hand. Her profound jade heart had long been destroyed, and now she could only rely on the power of the evil sword to fight. If Yi Qingluo could find out, she was afraid that other people would also find out this secret. Fourth sister, don't worry, just treat it as an ordinary competition, it's okay even if you lose. Yi Qingqian said softly under the ring. This sentence also gave Yi Qingling a dose of tranquilizer. Seventh sister, you just recently learned the way to cultivate profound qi from the overlord, but you are after all a beginner, everything should have a backup plan. Yi Qingling's eyes were full of anger as she spoke. She waved her long sword and a burst of profound qi like fire rushed out. I need a backup plan. Yi Qingluo sneered and opened her feather fan, condensing profound qi on it and gently waved it. Countless strong winds instantly lingered on the feather fan. It easily swung away the oncoming fire blade. Immediately, Yi Qingluo leaped up. The feather fan rotated extremely fast at her fingertips. The lingering profound qi also wantonly flowed like a sharp blade. That illusory technique left only an afterimage of the feather fan. It was impossible for the naked eye to catch. By the time Yi Qingling sensed the oncoming profound qi, it was already too late to avoid. The cold and treacherous atmosphere hit her in the face. Avoided. Fourth Miss Ye's profound level is so profound. If it was me just now, I would never be able to avoid that sword. Seventh Miss Ye's profound level seems to be only at the yellow profound realm and is still unstable. How did she withstand that sword? Is it the devouring flame fan that Di Zun gave you? The discussions below the stage didn't affect Yi Qingluo at all. She flipped her hand and a red light flashed, bringing with it an eerie chill as it directly attacked Yi Qingling's face. Just as Yi Qingling's complexion turned deathly pale, her heart trembling in fear and unable to dodge, the long sword in her hand suddenly had its own consciousness, controlling Yi Qingling's body. Yi Qingling's body floated in the air and quickly moved backward. However, that red feather fan still brushed past Yi Qingling's shoulder. Scarlet's sleeve was instantly sliced open, revealing half of her fair shoulder. Soon, fresh blood gushed out and covered his snow-white shoulder. Yi Qingling didn't seem to be aware of the pain as she moved her sword and burst out with a frightening sword ray. In the blink of an eye, a huge sword made of sword light appeared on the horizon. The fourth miss of the Yi clan can actually use sword qi to create a virtual sword. In the audience area, several elders suddenly stood up with a look of shock. There were countless profound practitioners in the world, and they used all kinds of weapons. Among them, the saber and the sword were the most popular. Every weapon had its own unique set of techniques. Just like swordsmanship. No matter how high the profound level was, no matter how strong the ability, if the swordsmanship had not reached the level of the sword saint, it would be impossible to create a huge virtual sword with sword qi. Yi Qingling had actually comprehended the profound meaning of swordsmanship. The audience area was filled with gasps one after another. Powerful. Simply too powerful. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.